psychology instructors asking me for advice on what courses to suggest to students. I have a lot of phone calls. If I don't know what chemistry classes a student should take, I'm going to call Sarah. But I think people think they're content experts sometimes in areas they're not. And I know that that's a frustration for my colleagues in social sciences, Debbie in economics, as well as Jim and JR in history, and of course all of us in psychology and the like. So I wish people would ask more questions like, what should a student take if they want to major in psychology? And we've worked really hard to have a sheet that's kind of obscure there on the website, but people seem not to ask for help and make, I think, sometimes bad recommendations for students.
Yeah, and that's something we hope we will eliminate down the road. And that's part of the whole, like, doing assessments on communications and on our website is, okay, so we can throw a whole bunch of information out there, but if we don't know how to access it, we don't know how to talk about it, if we don't know where it's living or why it's living, it's just another thing out there that we're not going to use for the benefit of our students and for our own sanity, decreasing the amount of work and the number of phone calls Jan Kruper has to have, because we would have done the work and put the information out in front where everyone can find it. Jamie posted in the chat, in corrections, students do not have access to the website. What would be nice is if there was something like the video we just saw, that we could show them so that they would know that there were pathways that students can explore. High School Plus students are only looking at getting a diploma. To have something specific to show them would help them to determine what to do after the diploma. So Jamie, thank you for sharing that, because that's, I like to dream big, but one of the things that I hope we can do with our guided pathways work is extend out the work that we do on Wallowa and Clarkston campus to our corrections facilities, where I know there are limitations on what our students can access there, but if we can do some of that heavy duty career lift with them, they go out with a goal. And that, I think, makes a huge difference to people's lives. So anything else? I'm gonna shift gears.
Diane, can I just ask a couple questions? Do you have
yes.
time?
Yes.
I was wondering, you were talking about your website, and I think that's really an important thing. Have you reviewed any websites that have their guided pathways up to see if they would be of interest to get some ideas from?
I've looked at several. I think it might be a good idea to do some fact-finding missions on what do you like, what don't you like, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, because I've seen some that are good, but I've also seen ones that take you to a program map, but it doesn't provide any departmental information about who these people are or who's going to be teaching these classes. That's not really helpful, people. So I have not ordered other people to do that yet, but definitely.
Two that I've seen that seem to pretty good to me were Pierce and Everett. And it was really just go in and click on the pathways, and it really took you through steps and who you could get to get help, financial aid for each program. It was really nicely done. The other question I had, I thought the person who brought up the idea of adding career, that just seems really smart. And wondered how you've been working career exploration into your pathways. Do those exist in each pathway or each program, kind of an exploratory sequence?
Not so much. We've tried to do that kind of piecemeal in the past, and we did not get what we wanted out of it. What we have now is that we have the first year experience course where there is some career exploration embedded within that class. And Erica can help me out with this a little bit, but one of the things that we've been wrestling with is how do we get that career exploration out in front for students, and how do we do as part of the intake process to do a more heavy lift on that. The other thing is identifying who are those students that are undecided so that we can specifically get in touch with them and say, hey, we have a career person that you need to meet with. Let's talk about what you want to do. We don't have a career person yet. We're in the process of hiring them, hopefully interviewing soon.
Well, the group brought up really smart things. You've got the right people on the council. Another thing that I was interested in was a comparison of structured transfer degrees and unstructured. And I think when, I'm sorry, I don't know names yet, but they were talking about psychology, and that's such a strong structured transfer degree. It'd be interesting to see that as an example of how more of the unstructured could move into that. Have you thought about looking at the difference between unstructured and structured transfer degrees?
I think one of the primary concerns that comes up is one, being under a degree so students can qualify for financial aid. So a lot of times we'll use the AA degree as our, hey, we'll put you under here while you figure out what you're going to do with yourself. A lot of the maps that we have that have been created are based primarily off of the AA degree because it fits so many different pathways out there. And then the more specific you get, the more specific degree that you get, like that good old option 1 degree. But I'll show you some of what we got for the map so far.
Thanks for letting me chime
in. And Lisa, absolutely, yes, the technology for tracking changes on maps, that's something that we need to think about, especially how do we marry that with CTC Link? One of the things, again, kind of waiting for stuff. We're waiting for a career person so we can really hit the ground running on some of that stuff. Waiting on a VPI to help us with curriculum management, because a lot of that's going to be tied to curriculum committee.
What we know from mapping, and this was CTC Link business process mapping, but if you create a map and it's in a static form, a PDF or an Excel sheet or whatever, and it has fingers out into everything else, you can update the one thing you know about, but it doesn't snowball out and update all the other places that it lives. And so it becomes this nightmare of trying to figure, whack-a-mole on what got updated and what didn't, if it's not in a technological database that you change it once and it pushes it everywhere. So
yes,
that's a definite gap, I would call it. Our curriculum will be managed in CTC Link, but I don't know. I mean, it just is, the catalog's there, the courses, all that kind of stuff. But I don't, other than subplans, I don't think the mapping like that is going to exist in that way. So
no,
that's why other schools have Curricunet and some other various different software type things that play with PeopleSoft in order to manage that.
Yes, that's on my radar. My very big jumbled radar is how in the future, like, it's great to create program maps, but how are you going to manage that moving into the future so that if you move something over here, it could affect something over here. And unfortunately, we have done that where we change something over here and it screwed up something over there. So no, I'm on the same page with you. Okay, moving on, because we're about half hour in. I got to get to curriculum meeting, so we're on my timeline. Okay. One of the things that I just wanted to touch base with everyone is I am on the governance council, and so is Julie. Is anyone else in this group on governance council? I think it's just us. Okay. So strategic planning for the institution we're rolling, people. The survey went out last week, I think, for strategic planning. I strongly encourage everyone to get that done and fill that out and be honest. Be mean, just throw it out there, because we need to know what's going on in our institution.
It closed on Sunday.
Did it close on Sunday?
We're not allowed to say anything anymore.
Well, you could always send me a note and I will hold your secrets for you. One of the things that we're talking about in the Governance Council, Bob Hughes came and gave a special presentation about the plan for the strategic plan. Sure. So first of all, equity is a huge, huge deal with our strategic plan. And it's also a huge, huge deal with guided pathways. So there is that tie-in of laser sharp focus on equity, analyzing our practices, analyzing what's important to us as an institution, looking at the gaps, like we just did with our programming, looking at the gaps, who's not at our institution, how do we make sure that they feel they are welcome and they want to come to our school? The stuff we do with guided pathways is directly tied into that stuff. So as strategic planning moves forward, I'm probably going to do a lot of back and forth between what we do in this meeting and the conversations in Governance Council around strategic planning. A lot of that back and forth, just so you guys know. So stay on the lookout for that kind of stuff. One of the really cool things that we got our hands on was some data around our demographics for the institution that Joshua put together for us. And I will put this in the Canvas show, but just it's interesting to look at our percentages of who is at the school, who's not at our school, who is our community that we're supposed to be serving, and who's not here. And just saying, okay, so if they're not here, why aren't they here? And what can we do to make it more welcoming? Again, all the stuff we just talked about, students don't know how they have a career in mind. They don't know what careers they want. They don't know what they need to do in order to get started with us and what we have to offer. So just so you know, there is connections between what we're doing with strategic planning with the data. I'm going to put this data sheet. Joshua, is that okay with you? I know you shared it with Governance Council, but is that okay with you? I put it in the guided pathways.
I think it's fine if you want to share that.
Okay, cool. I assumed so, but aren't you glad that I asked?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You know, in the group setting, you know, no pressure. Thank you. Really appreciate it. I think it's good data for us to look at, and that will be one of the homework assignments, is to check that out, because it's the same information that was shared with Governance Council to be used as part of strategic planning. Okay, next up, who wants to do some screen sharing with Canvas? Oh, don't get so excited. Okay, geez, come on. It's a Tuesday afternoon. Let's see if I can do this. I want that one. Okay, you all should see guided pathways. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So just so people who showed up early to the meeting heard this, but I have two laptops going right now. I have the one I'm hosting Zoom on, and I have one over here where I can see what you guys are seeing. So here is our Canvas shell for guided pathways. So here's the video that I just had you all watch. Here's the community discussion board for asking questions, making suggestions, feedback. My question is always, what is missing? Where are the gaps? So that's always the standing question, no matter what we're doing. Here's our modules, hopefully. Clicked. So here's where our meetings are. Hopefully council materials. Okay, so there's the roster with contacts, and here's a draft of bylaws that the wonderful, fabulous, I'm forever indebted to her, Erica Bachman, put together for us. So that is small. Let's see if I can zoom in a bit. That's better. So with the purpose, Erica, do you want to talk about where you pulled this from? Since you
A
put it
lot of
together, it's your brilliance.
Stored within my mind. Mostly just from various different, I used the kind of the template from various committees that I've been a part of before, as well as pulling from the state board's website. is where a lot of the stuff I pulled from, such as like the definitions of guided pathways, and especially like their goals and visions. Because again, as you know, we work with the state, we want to make sure that we are working in collaboration with their expectations. So you know, the first thing that I really wanted to make sure everyone understood is like, why are we meeting here together? And what is our purpose in meeting to work towards guided pathways? And then making sure that we all had a shared definition of what guided pathways is, because depending on where you look, there are multiple definitions of what that is. So I kind of wanted to provide a definition that we could all kind of share in that regard. I'm trying to pull up the bylaws on my own screen so I can see it a little better. And I wouldn't say that these are necessarily bylaws, but more like maybe a code, I guess, that we're living by.
Well, we are alluding to the Jedi Council on this, so I'm okay with this being a code.
Yeah. So just looking at some other resources are in there as far as like if you want to look understand more about guided pathways and what other colleges have been doing in regard to that. And again, putting the state board's vision, mission, and guiding principles, because that's really what's driving our work on this. And then we also wanted to make sure everyone understood why we picked people that we did in regards to scope of duties and priorities. So it has, you know, a list of the people that are involved, as well as looking at, I hope everyone got a chance to look at the work plan within the guided pathways. And there's, what are there, like 10, 13 different categories. And underneath each of those categories, there's certain things that we're supposed to be working on. So I kind of listed those in there, as well as a timeline so you all know, like, how long are you going to be involved in this process? And then again, the membership. So I also included, and I definitely stole this from one of Josh's committee bylaws, the whole Robert Rules of Orders. You know, if we do ever need to vote on something, just kind of some rules around how voting would take place. Not that I think we would ever necessarily need it, but just in case, those are kind of the parameters. Again, just kind of setting some guidelines for us as we move forward.
Everybody's stealing my stuff.
Stop making such good stuff, Slep, and then we wouldn't
Right?
steal it.
So
That's kind of, thank you. Seriously, I would not have gotten this together and I would have made a mess of it. So thank you, Erica, for putting that together. Seriously, forever indebted. But you kind of already knew that. So this is kind of like our guiding principles. What are we looking at? What are the goals that we have in mind? Equity was not a huge part of guided pathways at the beginning with the state board. That is something since 2017 has built and become more and more integrated into the guided pathways framework over the last couple of years. So it's interesting to see how that framework, how those thought processes can impact how we assess our practices and our gaps when it comes to serving students. Thank you for the rundown, Ms. Erica. Let's see if I can get this to go back. Okay, so, oh, I lost my mouse. There it is. Go down to modules and thinking. So this is where all of our meeting notes, agendas, notes, links to recordings will be kept here on Onward meetings. I still like it. This is a link to all of the state board's research and resources. This is actually really good. It's one of the better organized libraries that I've seen for guided pathways. Really good, to the point, and addresses the priorities that the state board has laid out for us. So strongly encourage folks to check that out and look at that. Okay, so here's the meat that I want us to start digging into a little bit. So I'm going to skip program apps and come here to assessments. One of the things that I'd really like to get going on is doing some assessments of our practices with the institution. And I am open to input different ideas, but the things that I really want to hit on is engagement with faculty, staff, and also with students, and also to do an assessment of advising. These are sample assessments from the College Spark program. Maybe. There we go. Oh, thinks so hard. Is it going? I think it's going. Okay, there. So this is just a list of descriptions. What do we think about guided pathways? What's your opinion? And it's fairly short. But this is just a sample of where we could start from to start doing some of these assessments. Here's where I'm asking for, this is your homework portion of the meeting, is check out the assessments. Is this enough to get us going? I think it is. And are there questions that we're missing, or is there information that we're getting from other places? Like, did we already ask this in other surveys? Joshua, you might know if we've asked this in other places. But this is specific to guided pathways, so I kind of think maybe not. But this is kind of a starting point for doing an assessment. One of the questions that I have for you is, when the heck is a good time to ask people to do a survey assessment? I know Erica just made a face. I know that. Because well, seriously, there's been a lot of surveys and stuff going on. Like, we were just asked the strategic plan. We were asked to give feedback for the VPI. I just did like CTC link surveys. So
Yeah,
I'd like to do it, but
Lisa just stole my line that survey fatigue is real. We
yeah,
have been doing a lot of these.
I know. That's why I was asking, have we asked these questions in a different way? Because I have my sense, but I want some real feedback on how many people really understand what we're trying to achieve with guided pathways and know, what we need to do or how we're going to do it. Like,
I don't think that we've asked these specific questions about guided pathways for a while. We did do one of these assessments, probably an earlier version of it, a few years back. And some of the points probably overlap with some of the other work that we do, but they didn't specifically ask about guided pathways.
Okay.
What about at our upcoming advisory committee meetings? I could see this playing into the conversations, at least that we have with our business one, where we're already looking at our curriculum and tying it in with industry in our conversations. I could see being something that our faculty could complete in preparation for possibly a guided pathways agenda item point at the next workforce advisory meeting. Jan, and do you guys have advisory committees in transfer pathways, or is that just a workforce thing?
That's just workforce, but there are the division meetings. Oh my gosh, I can't.
So maybe the timing is similar. I'm not sure where that could be that trigger to then play into an update that you would want to share out to the faculty anyway.
Yeah. So Julie, I see your question there. I would ask, honestly, like every employee of the college, what they know about guided pathways.
Yeah, just to kind of pop in here, one of the things in our work plan, as well as in the feedback that we got from the state board regarding our work plan was making sure that this is a college-wide implementation. And we need to make sure that everyone has a good understanding of what guided pathways is. And so that, when they're having a meeting about, like in my office, like about the intake process, that we are keeping guided pathways in mind, that we're all on the same page. So that's definitely one thing I think we need to be working on first, is making sure that we're, as a college, on the same page. And doing a survey would help us assess, like, what does the college does and doesn't know, and therefore we could then provide the education applicable.
You mean training?
Yeah.
What? Crazy talk, Erica. No, I think you're right. If we don't know, then we don't know, and then we're flying blind. And I know survey fatigue is very real, but I still need the information.
The other part is this is who responds, because when you blanket send it out, you get the same people responding the same way. So your data might not be correct because the 20 of us that fill it out already know, and the 180 that don't respond. So I would actually suggest that you go on a listening tour. And when Arts and Science meet, you come in and say, you know what, I'd like to talk a little bit about guided pathways. I'd like to ask you some questions. I would like to hear your responses, both from those who know and those who don't, and do it as a temperature check rather than a survey. I know that doesn't give you data points that you can compare year on year, but the survey data is problematic, and we're knowing that the more and more we do, the less and less accurate they are.
I want to piggyback on what Lisa just said. Like the workforce division, we have a meeting once every 2 weeks or thereabouts. And if you were to come in and just give a plug about what guided pathway is, show that short little video, and then help the people understand the importance of it, so that then when the survey comes out, they bought in on it. I think that would make a big difference.
Okay. You read my mind, lady. Linda Lane, again, being amazing. I like the idea of doing a listening tour for a temperature check and then do a follow-up survey later with, hey, you remember when I came to visit? How are we doing? Do you remember what we talked about? I kind of like that idea.
And
Diana,
maybe, sorry, go ahead.
I think in some ways too, it might be nice to have some actionable items, even if they're simple tasks, because I think, at least speaking for the science division, people have a general sense for guided pathways and what its significance is. But we're all sitting and we're like, what do you want us to do about it or do for you? So if there was even a small task that we could move forward with for you so that we can gain some momentum on it, I would be happy to do that. But right now it just kind of seems like there's some understanding and we're aware that it's an initiative that the college is committed to, but we don't really know or understand what our role is in helping the college facilitate that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, that makes complete sense.
Diana, I just need you to tell me what to do. That's it.
All right, this is what you're doing, man. You're going to go look at program maps. Maybe. It should work. And
Now I open my big fat mouth.
Yeah. This is yours. Preparing for a major in English.
Jeremiah is just going to be representational of all faculty and do all of their.
He's going to do all of them.
That sounds reasonable.
You're gonna write the engineering one too. Is that okay?
Why not?
I love that I can tease you. So this is an example of a program map. So this is set up where you can type in here, you can add notes. this is why I want to know, how does it look? What are we missing on the maps? Because everything in the Canvas, sorry, I'm going to give some of you whiplash, I know it. Everything in Canvas, if it does not have a link, we do not have a map for it yet. Now, there are some of the things where it kind of doesn't make sense to have a map. For instance, music. It doesn't make sense to really have a map in that we don't provide the classes that students would need to get a leg up in a music major because we are not offering the music theory courses. So those are some of the gaps that we can't really do anything about, but we need to acknowledge that's a gap because we're missing those courses. Is that something we want to do something about? Probably not right now because things are crazy enough. But where are the gaps? Which ones are we missing? What kind of information are we missing? Will it go where I want it to go? No. Ah. Go back here. So this is your homework, is look at the program maps. Which ones are we missing? Feedback. Do they make sense? Is this something that be usable until we get CTC link and subplans going? Erica, you're muted.
Sorry, I got distracted by something else. Go ahead and see the question again.
I thought you were saying something. You look.
Oh, no. Was I talking to my, oh my gosh. I do that sometimes.
It's okay. It's okay. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just thought you usually have something very insightful to say and I didn't want to miss it. Okay. So it still hasn't gone to where I wanted to go. So this is what I'm hoping you will have some time to do. I'm going to send an alert to deans saying, hey, here's all the maps. I'd like to have as many people looking at the maps, identifying gaps, making some edits, making notes on for improvements on what we need, and asking them if I can come visit their meetings and talk about guided pathways. And I got my to-do list going here, people. And then, okay, hold on. I think I'm missing something. Where did my agenda go? The agenda that I couldn't print out.
I do have something to say now.
Of course you do.
In
Lay it on
response to
me.
Nicole's question. So one of the things I've been working on in Teams is there's a way to create tasks and assign tasks. So regarding the program maps, if we had a list of all the programs, I could list them out in Teams tasks and then assign people to that program map. And then that way you would know, like,
right there. Having attempted to do such a thing with CTC Link, faculty don't use Teams, they hate Teams, and they won't go in Teams. So if you're going to have faculty working on those program maps, I would highly, strongly suggest not in Teams.
Is there a way to, I don't want to make assignments. I'm uncomfortable with that, but I'll do it if I have to. Is there a way in Canvas to do, like, someone could send me a checklist like, hey, I've checked it out. I've done what you wanted me to do. That way I have a sense of how much review we got.
A quiz.
A quiz.
All
right.
They type their name in, say, I did whatever, submit.
What? You just made that sound way too easy. I'm not sure I understood it.
Yes, we live in Teams, but faculty aren't in it at all. They really aren't. And the people that I work with that are in Teams a lot struggle with project in Teams, which is what that to-do list task thing is. It's based on project. So I want to save you a lot of effort that I learned the hard way.
May I just jump in and defend faculty a little bit? We've not been trained on Teams at all, so we get all these tips and pointers, and there's this world of Teams that seems to have happened in the summertime that faculty weren't a part of. So I think it's not that we're resistant is that we can only do so much and nobody's given us any training and we spend so much time in Canvas.
Yeah, and I would be more than happy to walk some people through it if that's something that we're open to. I totally get that. If it's something that people don't want to use, then we shouldn't use it. But if people are open to using it, I would be more than happy to like do walkthroughs with people over Zoom.
And I also will have to pipe in here on faculty hating Teams because that's pretty strong language. And we in the math department use Teams. We use it to collaborate for co-requisites and as a departmental tool. So I just would ask that you hesitate in making such broad statements about the faculty.
Fair enough. It wasn't meant to be, I was trying to be protective, actually. Sorry about that. So it didn't come out that way, but it's just one more tool, one more thing. And people are like, I'm over all the new tools. So
let me say, in arts and sciences, not a single person uses Teams. And I have a feeling based on the all the stuff we're doing already, they're probably not going to want to.
Jeremiah, we are in arts and sciences, the math department.
I'm sorry, not arts and sciences. I mean, humanities, my division. I'm sorry.
Well, and the other thing is really
Julie.
protect it. Like you have to ask for permissions to generate Teams and to use stuff as faculty members.
Yeah.
So that's another reason it's really clunky for us to use.
Well, and so my sanity is the most important. Just putting it out there. I need one place. So I am
Canvas.
Yeah.
I can share things in Canvas with my division.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with Canvas. Executive decision will go in Canvas. I may use Teams for smaller groups. Maybe. I'm reserving the right.
I think you should bring us all along, Diana.
Let me say one more time. I meant to say humanities, not arts and sciences. So Julie's not mad at me.
You're all friends here. We're all working towards a common goal.
The expectation
Okay.
is we all have it open and in the background running. And I mean, that's how we work. And I don't know that that's true for a lot of people. And so then they have to turn it on to even see that you messaged them, to even see that, that all.
I just use Teams for the chat function.
Yeah.
That's the handiest thing. Okay, so curriculum meeting is starting in about 2 minutes. So we got to wrap this up, people. So I will write up notes. I will create a quiz. I want feedback on the program maps and feedback on the Pathways website. There have been a few edits, but I think now would be a good time to do a little revisit on language and setup. And I will send you a couple links of some good examples out there. Everett is good. Pierce is good. I haven't looked at it recently, but Yakima Valleys, I liked too. I liked some aspects of theirs as well. So I'll send you the links to look at that. So feedback is your homework. Look it over, see if it makes sense, send the feedback. Thumbs up, thumbs down, grouchy faces. I'm trying to stop sharing. There we go. Okay. Are we all good?
There was a question about the next meeting time. Are you going to send
Yes.
out another doodle poll?
I'd rather not because it's a real pain to do, but I'm having a heck of a time identifying a time when most people are available. I'll send out another doodle poll. I didn't like it. I don't have a sense of when a good time a day would be, or a day that would work for most people. There's a lot of faculty here, so I know some of your schedules are wackadoodle crazy, where you may be doing a later time.
Faculty, do you guys put your class times in Outlook so she could just use the scheduling assistant and not have to do the doodle poll? Because that way you can just see if folks are free or not.
Yes.
Mhm.
And he knows. I'm interested in knows. All right, cool. I shall do that. I'll find a time. And if I really wanted to be a brat, I'd figure out how to just force it onto your calendars. Okay. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for the future eyeballs that you're going to put on maps and whatnot. and carry on, my dears. I'll see y'all later.
Thank you all.
Thank
Bye.
you, John.